What is a GM? What's a DM? What's the difference? And what do they do anyway? Welcome to the Dungeon Masters Academy. These two terms mean pretty much the exact same thing, with a slight difference. So let's talk about GM first. The GM is the Game Master. This is a role that is specifically for someone who is running a tabletop role-playing game. The role of the GM is to unpack the story, or provide a framework of a world that the PCs, or player characters, can explore. This can be a world that comes from a pre-printed book, or a PDF, or it can be one entirely made by you. And we call this homebrew. The GM plays the part of arbiter or referee, storyteller, they create challenges for the PCs to encounter, and so on. The GM also usually plays the parts of the non-player characters, or NPCs. You might have heard of that term before. These would be things like shopkeepers, townsfolk, or basically anyone who is not one of the player characters. Now, it's important to note that the GM does not play against the players. Rather, they function as an insider who knows where things are in the world and decides how the players will experience everything in order to complete the story. Now, whatever system you decide to GM within, and there are lots of systems out there, there's going to be rules and tables and maps and other material to help you with specifics. And some games are more based in narrative and flow and go easy on the mechanical aspects in the name of being more natural. Daggerheart, that's an example of this, that they're really working on perfecting that aspect of the game. Now, there are other games where the materials you could purchase, like source books, maps, and story modules, appear endless, like Dungeons & Dragons. Some of these systems appear daunting, and you may ask yourself if you will ever be fully ready to play these games. And the answer is probably not, at least in your mind. You just need to sit down and start to play. Now, I know that can be nerve-wracking for people who are nervous about being the new person in the room and being called out as not knowing how to play. But maybe try playing them with other people that are also interested in learning, and you can all learn the game together. But don't feel like you need to memorize hundreds of pages of rules before you're allowed to play. Otherwise, you're never going to get down to it. Now, as the GM, you're the master. You organize the game, schedule your players, good luck with that, set your house rules, prepare for your sessions by reading your material and conceiving of encounters. A big part of the game is filling the gaps. Mastering this game is about filling gaps in a story. I said that you provide a framework, and that framework has gaps, and those gaps contain the unexpected. So how prepared are you to fill those unexpected gaps? What will your players do in the next session? Well, it's hard to tell. Will they follow in perfect step with everything you have planned? Not likely. Will that make for some exciting gameplay? If you let it. Now, one way to be ready for the unexpected is to have lists on hand. Lists of NPCs that you may need to grab, lists of shops, taverns, places that the party might decide to go, lists of items and treasure that they could potentially find, or any other list that may be relevant to your adventure. Now, the resources you start off with will be directly related to the story at hand. And as your campaign wears on, your collection of lists and tables and notes and maps and so on will grow and modify. Slowly, you build a library of resources like this. Now, before I go further, if you like this video and want to support this channel, please like and follow. On top of that, I'd like to offer up in the comments section a place for you to ask questions that you might be otherwise afraid to ask. It's hard when you're new at something and you're curious and you want to ask, but you're afraid of looking like the newcomer. Now, I encourage you to ask, and I promise I'm going to delete any snarky comments in there that are unproductive and might otherwise make you feel bad because someone feels like they have to exert their knowledge or authority on you. All right, let's get on with this video. Dungeon Master and Game Master, DM and GM, are synonyms of each other. But in DM, the word dungeon is key. This is specific to Dungeons & Dragons, the game from Wizards of the Coast. So if you are out there playing Daggerheart or Numenera, you call yourself a Game Master. Now, you may be asking yourself why I called this channel the Dungeon Masters Academy and not the Game Masters Academy. Well, that one's easy. I started playing TTRPGs in 1981 with Dungeons & Dragons. This was a formative experience for me and helped to shape my overall creativity. For me, Dungeon Masters carved into my thinking. And the switch is not an easy one for me to flip. I also think it sounds cooler. but that's just me. Dungeons & Dragons opened my mind up to a gaming world that was vast and full of possibility, and I'm proud to have weathered the storm in the 80s as a kid who was made fun of and looked at like I worshipped Satan. Anyway, I hope you like this video, and I hope you come back for more. Make sure to check out my social media accounts too for short form content around things like game mastering, TTRPGs, and games in general. All right, people. See you soon, and thanks.